right, we are back from the 2025 Borealis Psychedelic Science Summit in Stockholm. My name is Yoshi, and I'm joined now by Esenia Cassidy. Welcome, Esenia.
Yes, hello. Thank you, Yoshi. Thanks for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's a lot jet lagged. It's an exciting 2 days. Really rich program.
You flew in from the US a couple of days ago, right?
I just arrived yesterday. Yeah, I flew.
Yesterday? Oh,
yeah,
man.
I traveled most of the day and night Thursday, and I arrived yesterday morning and arrived directly here and hit the ground running. Yeah.
Where in the US?
I'm currently in Columbus, Ohio, at the Ohio State University, where I work with the Center for Psychedelic Drug Research and Education, spearheaded by Dr. Alan Davis. So that's my home lab at the moment, which is a very exciting place to be.
Nice. Awesome. Tell me a little bit more about your background and how you got to working in the psychedelic field.
That's a good one. So my original background is in linguistics and environmentalism. So that's what I did some time ago. Then that led me to a career in media. So I had a full-on career in media. I was in media for like maybe over a decade. And in media, I focused on arts and environmentalism too, but also arts and culture, and specifically on like film. So I've interviewed, Hollywood stars, film directors, actors, all of that. So I did this for a while. And then I have been doing media for so long at that point, I was kind of seeking another outlet because essentially, I guess I could say I was kind of bored because it's the same skill that you practice, and I've practiced it for a while, and I just wanted to change, and I've considered going back to school, and I've always been interested in psychology, but also urbanism. So like I thought between sort of psychology and urban studies, chose psychology, went back to school at the New School in New York, got a degree in psychology, and as I was finishing my degree, I was essentially, I got pulled into or invited to co-write a paper on psychedelic research, psychedelic harm reduction and integration. And that sort of plunged me into this whole field eventually.
That's so interesting. Not the most common pathway to this field.
What is the most common pathway to this field?
That actually, that's a good question. There's no. I've learned from these interviews.
I'm dying to find out.
There are no common. But this is the first time I hear someone working for years in media and then switching to this field.
So what are some of the common pathways now? Tell me.
I would say a lot of people had experiences in their youth with psychedelics.
I see. And
realized, oh, this is something interesting, and I want to know more about this. And then they pursue a research path to find out more. That is one of the most common. Another one is people who have worked in pharma or healthcare in general, who feel like, man, we're not really helping people with some of the stuff we're doing. There has to be better pathways to help people than this. And then they find psychedelics and start doing research.
This is very interesting. See, I learned something new. So I've had my own psychedelic use experience, but I can't say that it directly informed my pivot. I think there might have been a connection, but I couldn't say like cause effect, like a very kind of simple cause effect. I don't think that was the case.
How come?
I don't know. I think I'm just curious because I've had, I've started off in languages, heavily humanities sort of oriented.
Right.
Environmentalism, social justice, harm reduction movement, anti-drug war movement, filmmaking thrown in. So like it's been sort of like a activist and media sort of blend for most of my life up to that point. And then I think I just needed a pivot and something different because again, I've in a sense exhausted all those media, all those ways of getting what I was trying to get. And then I also feel simultaneously that everything I've done up to that point prepared me really well for this chapter in psychedelic research. Because all my media, like in media, you do a lot of research. You have to learn in depth about a single topic in a short period of time.
Right.
You have to instantly build rapport to interview whoever is the Hollywood star you're interviewing, on this given day. So like, all of those experiences, social justice component, which is very important, grassroots organizing, which I've done a while. So all of this, I think, blended really well and organically sort of landed that blend, to this chapter in psychedelic research. So I've been really enjoying this chapter, that I can tell you.
That's great. Glad to hear that. So what are you most excited about in your current work?
There's so much. There's so much.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, such a good place to be in. It's very, very exciting. The work we do at the center is very exciting. We do a bunch of, interesting, important research clinical trials. I also have my own project, multiple projects, but in which I look, and I'm presenting on some of these topics later today. I looked into gender and psychedelics, specifically into how psychedelic use maybe aids or supports gender exploration for people and psychological healing associated with gender-based rejection and transphobia. I also look into attachment. I've been interested in attachment even before I was interested in psychedelic research, so for like a longer time. And so now I'm looking into attachment in psychedelics, as attachment as predictor and outcome and process level mechanism of psychedelic interactions. And I'm part of Dr. Granqvist's lab here at Stockholm University. And so that's my another talk on attachment, essentially, in psychedelics and the state of the small field of specific attachment psychedelic research. And I think most excitingly would be to combine some of those dimensions in the upcoming research projects.
That's super interesting. How, in which way do psychedelics aid in the, what did you call it, gender exploration area?
Yeah, so for that you can come to my talk, but to give you the gist. So what we did is we spoke with key informants who were in our case licensed mental health professionals in the US, who worked with clients using psychedelics for their own clients' own gender exploration. And so it was in a variety of settings. So some clients and therapists did it together in like a, legalized setting, like a ketamine-assisted psychotherapy setting. Some clients just came to therapists to process insights from their own intentional psychedelic use.
Right.
But what we see is that in a lot of cases, there was gender-based rejection, whether in childhood or in later life. Later in life, it was typically in the form of transphobia. And so we see that people both used psychedelics to aid in the exploration process and also to deal with the healing from that rejection and transphobia. And interestingly, when people come seeking, support, understanding, or clarity, either from psychedelics or from therapy or from psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, it's not always gender-related. Sometimes it could be maybe just persistent depression or professional stuckness, not knowing what to do next. And then sometimes that gender piece essentially presents itself usually in the depth of psychedelic experience. And once it presents itself, it's inevitable. It then becomes the focus. So it emerges and it's clear it's very important and the focus of the work shifts. And essentially the rest of the work is focused around that. But some people were very clear already from the beginning on that questioning and not clarity or feeling like something's off. So some people had that clarity around sort of like gender piece. And for some it was a surprise emergence. But once there, it really, became paramount to the work.
Interesting. The other topic, attachment. Yes. I'm greedy. Since I don't get to go to any of the talks, I'm
there you go. You have
I'm
to
taking full advantage of having podcasts
short
with
version
everyone. Give me all of everything.
Like a nice kind of jam-packed short version of the conference in your podcast.
Exactly.
So there we'll be discussing, again, like the state of the field. I mean, it's like, a quick intro to what attachment theory is, to what psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy is. And then I think looking specifically into attachment and psychedelics and research up to date. And up to date, we only have, I'm aware of 4 explicitly focused on attachment and psychedelics research papers that are dedicated to this topic. 2 are empirical and 2 are conceptual. A lot of them. So it's essentially 2 labs. It's Dr. Christopher's lab in Oregon, in the United States, and Dr. Granqvist's lab here in Stockholm. So these are essentially 2. That's one of the conclusions. 2 labs jointly responsible for all the research on attachment and psychedelics up to date. Wow. And I think there is at least one more empirical study coming up that was presented yesterday, also from Granquist's lab. So it's hopefully will be published soon. Very exciting. So the state of the field kind of discussed briefly, kind of quickly diving into each of those 4 papers, with very quick takeaway being that the trend is increased attachment security or decreased attachment insecurity following psychedelic use, which most often shows in the form of reduced anxiety rather than avoidance, because attachment is measured on 2 main axes, or one way of measure attachment is on 2 axes of anxiety, attachment anxiety and attachment avoidance. So anxiety seems to be decreasing more than avoidance, and then and sustained. So that's the 2 empirical papers, and 2 conceptual papers essentially kind of build and provide conceptual theoretical underpinning for those processes. So fortunately, those 2 lines of research match and they align, which is good. Otherwise, we'd be in trouble in this small field. And so I think it calls for more research and also kind of like expands into new domains such as religion and spirituality research, which again is Dr. Granquist's focus. And so even before he pivoted into psychedelics and attachment, he was interested in attachment in religion and spirituality and how people essentially maybe use God or other phenomena to maybe compensate for the lack of attachment and attunement in early life, if that makes sense. A very exciting field, of its own. And then you bring psychedelics into it, and it becomes even more, very, very interesting.
Yeah, while you were talking, I was just thinking of how interesting this field is, where just in these 5 minutes, so many wide-ranging topics have been brought up.
I'm glad, and I'm happy to share any further links for future exploration, but I think that's one of the things I'll be focusing on in my talk on attachment. And one more caveat is that a part of this talk will be the paper we wrote with, again, Dr. Granquist, with Chris Timmerman, who's also here, with David Dupuy, he's not here, unfortunately, where we essentially, it's a conceptual article where we outline, I suppose, potential harms of enculturation, kind of like undesirable enculturation of values transmission in psychedelic context. So again, we kind of illustrate it with the building blocks of attachment theory, with David Dupuy's work in ayahuasca settings in Peru, where it was kind of clear how participants arrived to a retreat setting with different worldviews. And by, the end of that week, I think it's a week-long event, where they do daily discourse, they left with very similar views. And I think that was a concern. So David raises a legitimate concern of did they consent to it? Was it a, willing and willed upon thing to do? Were they aware of those changes? What do they mean for the rest of their lives?
Right.
Are they going to sustain them? How sustained they're going to be? So it's a very interesting example of how value and belief transmission can happen in, psychedelic contexts. Again, whether people are aware or not, whether they explicitly agreed to or not. So it's one of the examples how we have to tread very carefully in these settings. When you think about psychedelic psychotherapy, for example, and other contexts where, because of such instability, of increased vulnerability of individuals, this can take place.
Maybe that dovetails nicely into my next question. I've been asking people about the highlights in the psychedelic field that they're looking at today or moving forward. But I know you had some potential pitfalls that we might need to be aware of. Yes, I think I'm more of a
pitfalls person.
Which is very good. The theme of the conference is Beyond the Hype, right? So
yes, that's the theme.
We need to talk about these things,
but I don't know.
Sure.
Have we seen many talks? I'm now beginning to wonder. Have I seen any talks that beyond? I guess Matt Johnson's now.
I've heard some people talk about it in these podcasts, at least.
Okay, yes, that's a good. So you hopefully have a good sense of what are the pitfalls. So let's see what you say about mine.
Yeah, please.
So I think there are many issues, I would say, of different kinds, structural, maybe personal, you name it. But I think one obvious, and I can speak from the US perspective, which is where I'm based and I'm most familiar with, legislatively, culturally, socially, and so on, which is a big country with many states and legislation varies state to state. first of all, we have the issue of access, right? The issue of access to, legalized psychedelic treatments. Clearly, there is a lot of need. I don't need to restate it. We all know there is really good case study with veterans, which is a bipartisan issue. The stories are very convincing. You could see how, people die from suicide every day. They don't have access to these substances. Yes, we need access on one hand. On the other hand, there's a huge issue from my perspective, because I also have a site in humanities, and I co-founded the Psychedelic Humanities Lab with Dr. Langlitz at the New School. The issue of medicalization is an issue in itself, and as to how it is executed, because strictly, medicalized, very structured, maybe a bit soulless, context-less approach could be also problematic and might not work for everyone, because people have different backgrounds, different, trauma history, different attachment styles, you name it. So all of these factors into it. So that sort of cold Western medicalized approach may not be optimal, might work well for some, again, depending on the situation, on what you're trying to treat, and so on and so forth. Another issue from my field of social work, I think, reflectivity and reflexivity. And as a humanist, I don't think as a field we have enough reflexivity as a field, which of course stems from individual reflectivity and reflexivity, which I think we need to engage more in, and also channel that into our work. Even if that's something we do in private, I think it needs to be more clear, and conferences like Borealis, just even right now, this keynotes from Matt and then Lior's talk, we're a very good example of that. Because we can't just narrow it down to sort of medicalization, focus on legalization, and sort of run with it forward. Again, in the States context, there is, profit associated with this. Similarly to cannabis industry, who is in the room, who is not in the room, who is excluded, who has access, what does it look like, how much legalized psychedelic treatment costs, and so on and so forth. So I think without reflectivity as a field and reflexivity as each individual, it will be hard to get to a hopefully harmonious, respectful, equitous state, which I hope is the goal for all of us, but I don't know if that's my goal. That's what I'm trying to achieve.
You would hope so, but I'm sure there are people with other goals as well.
Yes, it's hard. And actually one more pitfall, which is separate and more related to medicalization, the medicalization bit, and this is the element that was discussed yesterday quite a bit, there was a really good panel with Jason Loma and Guy Goodwin and Yost and Diaz Steinbeck. The issue of minimal support. So what medicalization, capitalization, quick scalability means that often psychological support is reduced, right? And then again, what does it look like? Is it like little scary strip mall rooms where you come, pay per hour, no support, and then you leave, which we know people have been harmed in situations. And there is, I think, mainstream writing, media writing in this, at least. I don't know if there's a specific study on those contexts, but clearly they're not optimal contexts.
Right.
And they could do more harm than good. But yet, if that's the capitalism-driven setting, if that's almost like the only possible setting in the rampant American hyper-capitalism, what does it mean for those participants? And more importantly, maybe not more importantly, what does it mean for us as a field? Because we are in the field, and I would hope we still have capacity to kind of intervene and help shape that outcome, based on the evidence we have, based on the history, the studies, our values. So I would hope we do have agency, as someone was just discussing, psychedelics increase agency. Yeah. I do hope we have that agency and can demonstrate that in the years to come, starting now.
That is so interesting. I love this topic. I've thought about this topic a lot, especially the aspect, I think it was the second aspect you mentioned, how to introduce this. Is the medicalization the right way, or what is the right path? to
how
introduce.
exactly to be medical? Yes.
Yeah. I've actually written an article with an idea about how we could do that.
What's the gist? What's the gist of your article?
I don't want to take up too much time. Maybe that's something we can talk about in my podcast. But basically, I think we can anything that's potentially dangerous but still has enough upside for people to want to partake in it. I think we should do that. There are models from current aspects of society that we could borrow from, and my idea is that we can treat psychedelics and other psychoactive substances as we treat vehicles. If people want to drive a car, everyone knows it's dangerous. You can die crashing a car, and you can also hurt other people. But we feel that the benefits are strong enough for people to drive. But if you want to drive, you have to take a driver's license. So that is the gist of my article, to have some kind of system where if you want to do drugs recreationally or medically or whatever you're interested in, all right, here are the steps to get a license to use them. So you learn how to not hurt yourself, not to hurt others. If you end up in a bad situation, what you can do, and so on and so forth. Just like if you want to drive a car.
Yeah.
And then you could also have different steps, just as for a vehicle license.
Like for different compounds or something.
Yeah. First you get the... I don't know like a moped license.
Right.
That's the first license.
I don't know what that would be. Yeah.
And then the regular car, and then the truck or whatever. So those are the steps for vehicles. So you could see the same thing with substances, where the mildest or least dangerous, least likely to hurt yourself and others is the first one. Once you had that license for a couple of years, you've proven you can handle it. Then you can get the other licenses for other compounds, substances.
Very interesting. Thank you for telling me. I need to read the article now. Very good analogy. I wonder what could be the least harmful psychedelics. I'm now thinking, like, how would you rank them?
Yeah. Psychedelics would probably be after you've proven you can handle some other milder stuff, I would imagine.
Right. Yeah. Like if you apply it to all like psychiatric substances, not just psychedelics.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It would require quite a big societal change, but we managed to introduce driver's licenses, so why not?
Yeah, I think agency is key, and responsibility. Yeah.
Interesting. We have a lot to talk about, clearly, but we don't have all the time in the world today, unfortunately. So tell me a little bit about something you're excited about in the psychedelic field in general, more broader, looking for today or moving forward.
So I think I have like a big picture and maybe a smaller picture. So big picture I'm excited about is, hopefully upcoming legalization of some sorts in the States. I don't want to like concretize or jinx anything. So I think we're still, after the, FDA rejection, we are still sort of, as a field, trying to kind of rebound.
The MDMA rejection
MDMA,
of 2024, I think it was. Yeah.
And so I assume the some sort of legalization is or rather, at least in the very narrow medical context, as was that application, not necessarily broad legalization. I assume it is imminent and will happen relatively soon. That's one wild threat, I don't want to say threatening necessarily. While it has a lot of anxiety-provoking elements, as just discussed, it also has a lot of potential and, of course, interest and excitement and a lot of healing for people, and the field will be transformed of medical healthcare. So that's something to look forward to with all the questions that it brings. And I think on a more specific like project level, I just learned about this initiative here in Europe, Doctoral Network. Have you heard of it? It's the... if I understand correctly, it's like a Europe-wide initiative where doctoral students from in different fields, all related to psychedelics in one way or another, will have like this. It's like a 4-year program where students will be they have to be from a different country. Like, for example, someone from Portugal then will come to Sweden for 4 years, work on some aspect of psychedelic-related investigation at the doctoral level. And so this way, if you can imagine, maybe dozens of students across Europe all shifting countries and doing this work in like a limited supported time frame of 4 years, and both getting their PhD and also enriching the field of psychedelic research in like a variety, you know, of domains, from clearly medical applications to, you know, economics of it, for example, the cost effectiveness, like the speaker yesterday discussed. So I feel like it's a very robust program I'm very excited about and want to learn more. And it's really great that things like this are happening in Europe because, again, the landscapes are very different. So I'm always excited to learn what is the, you know, new thing that's happening here and what we in the States can potentially learn from this.
Absolutely. That's fascinating. You mentioned there was you said a big picture and smaller picture. Where did you?
The smaller picture was the doctoral program.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the big picture was the
legalization.
Upcoming,
right,
yes.
Right. Got it.
Hopefully.
All right. So tell people where they can find or follow your work.
They can follow my work on LinkedIn. I think I use LinkedIn most of all the social media. And my name is Esenia Cassidy, which is Esenia Cassidy. And, you know, I post anything relevant in terms of like upcoming projects, ongoing projects, any data collection, any my publications or presentations, also the work of our Center for Psychedelic Drug Research and Education. So I would hope it's a good source of information of kind of like research in psychedelic field pertaining to me directly or sort of less directly.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sitting down and having a chat with me.
Thank you so much, Yoshi. It's great to be here. Fantastic.
Much appreciated. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. My name is Yoshi. This has been the Borealis Psychedelic Science Summit in Stockholm. Catch you next time.